the culture of Bolivia is very unique. It's one of the most highly populated people that are of native indigenous descent. There's, I think, 30 plus different native tribes and languages and cultures there that you'll get to know as you leave the city. But mostly the cultures in Bolivia are kind of divided between the mountain people of La Paz and of Cochabamba, which are the Quechua and the Aymara people, and the more Spanish influenced and the Spanish blood of Santa Cruz, which are the different cultures there. And in Bolivia, you'll get to know the term Camba, which are the people from Santa Cruz and from the east, and Coya, which are the native people of La Paz and Cochabamba, of the Aymara and the Quechuan descent. It's really awesome to see the native cultures there, and there's probably a good 50% of the people, maybe in Santa Cruz a little less, but that will have native descent, and that whether it's their parents or their grandparents will still speak Quechua or Aymara. And so it's really fun, to jump on. You'll be able to distinctly tell if they're Coya or Camba because of their dress. They'll have the ruffled skirts, the pollera, and they'll have their apron on, and they'll have their top hat or a beanie, and they'll have their ponytails. But I guess it has it's got the two braids, so not necessarily a ponytail, but you'll be able to tell if they're Quechua or Aymara. And it's really fun to jump onto a micro or do a contact on the street to some little old lady and be able to impress them, going up to them and speaking to them in Quechua, learning a few phrases, Imanaya Kashanki, is how are you in Quechua, and you say Walehia, or you find someone who's Aymara and you say Kamisaraki, Waliki is the response. So it's really fun, to go and they'll look at some white American and say, oh wow, those are how did you learn that? It's a great conversation starter. You'll learn enough phrases to be able to impress them, and of course to invite them to baptism. In Aymara or Quechua. In Quechua, it's bautizo con Kichu, is will you be baptized? Or in Aymara, one of our first families that would feed us on the mission in my first area, she was living in Santa Cruz, obviously, but she was Aymara. She would teach us a lot of phrases, and you take advantage and ask them how to say things, and what phrases would impress the people and have them be excited to talk to you and learn a lot about their culture and their traditions and their values and their holidays. Christmas is celebrated a little bit differently. Christmas with fireworks and everybody, I swear, every holiday is just an excuse to party in Bolivia. You'll find a lot of people who are drunk on the streets on those days, but it's good fun to find people who are happy and are festive and are always grateful for what they have. You will definitely be humbled to find people that are grateful for what they have. Some of the cultural do's and don'ts. Number one, if they give you food, accept it. If it's something that you're going to sit down and eat with them, eat everything on the plate. If you're able to portion what you can, that's better, but a lot of times they'll put the plate in front of you and you eat it. Like I said before, you sometimes just don't ask what's on the plate, and there's a lot of great food, but you're going to be really full, and so you got to try really hard to make sure you eat every last piece of what's on your plate. But the secret is, and here's the advice, make sure you're finishing it about the same time as everyone else, because if you eat it too quickly, they're going to think you loved it so much that you want seconds. And so if you eat it before everyone else, then they're going to bring you a second plate, and then you have to eat that too. So just kind of take your time and make sure you're not finishing too quickly, otherwise they'll bring you a second plate. But there's so many foods that are so amazing there, you're going to want to, take a second plate. The language in Bolivia, you're lucky, is really slow. Spoken very flojo, very lazily. You're not going to have too much trouble with, like the Chilenos who speak so fast that you're not going to be able to pick up half the words they say, or, other people. Obviously, in the beginning, it's going to be a little different learning any language, but the learning tips I would give you is just to pay attention to the different words that are used specifically there in Santa Cruz that you might not hear otherwise. You're not going to read them in a book. You're not going to learn them anywhere else. You have to be careful, though, when you're learning the language, hearing from the streets and whatnot. There's a lot of jerga. There's a lot of jerga. There's a lot of slangs that as a missionary you're not always going to want to use, because it's going to kind of break down the respect that they might have for you. At the same time, it's going to break down a lot of barriers.